All right, so we have a question today. She says, "Hello, Brandon. I stumbled upon your fascinating website one night through Google. For over a year now, I have been fascinated with learning about the male-female dynamic due to not having any awareness of it in a very long-term relationship. I am now open to really learning about how to do better with men I'm interested in. I recently enjoyed your post about how women try to argue and men turn away. I experienced that with my boyfriend. I blamed it on him, and I would get super frustrated. I used to think it was just us, but now I know that this may be a common dynamic that women start, and it doesn't lead to communication with success with a man. The more I used to raise my voice, the more he would shut down his affection. So this leads me to why I'm writing you. Do you have any articles yet on the following or any advice?" We're about to get there. "I hope this isn't too personal or too much information to hear for a man, and one I don't know like you, but I have become aware that when I get close to my female cycle, and when I'm on it, I feel much more insecure around a man. It is a hormonal change. I have become aware that without a doubt, it is around my cycle that I may be more prone to arguing due to this insecurity. The rest of the month, I am fine, happy. I can be strong for a man. Is it okay for me to slip away for a while from a man during this time? Should I tell him not about the period, but that I need some time for self-care or just not communicate, or what might be the best route? During that time, I prefer to spend time with my girlfriends, other women, and maybe do yoga to help soothe me. I only want a man to see me when I'm at my best and not argumentative. Thank you for your help. Respectfully, Nikki." So I have a somewhat interesting perspective on the female cycle. And you can choose to listen to my perspective or you can choose to ignore it. It's up to you. But from what I've observed, to me, it seems like the female cycle is basically a period of cleansing. It's like a period of emotional cleansing. So throughout the month, you go through all sorts of different emotions, highs and lows. You go through fears, anxieties, doubts, and then you go through highs of happiness, joy, etc. Throughout the month, you're kind of subtly repressing these emotions. As people living in society, we've been conditioned to repress our emotions, that anger is bad and you shouldn't show that to anybody, and you should only show positive emotions to people. So we basically repress our emotions. So at the end of the month, when you start having all of these hormonal changes within your body, it becomes more impossible to repress the emotions. So they all come flooding out. It's basically a period of detoxification, of cleansing. So that's why you're more prone to have these insecurities, these fears, these grief-based feelings, and all sorts of negative style feelings that get stacked up in the chakras, and they all start coming out at the end of the month because you can no longer hold them back because of the change, because of the hormonal cycle. So my recommendation would be to use your cycle as an opportunity to help facilitate deeper cleansing. Because most women just they feel the emotions, the PMS and all that kind of stuff, and they just kind of have a bare level of acceptance that this is who I am and it's not going to change. And in my experience, I do believe that it can actually change and you can experience a cycle without it being, really emotional and all that kind of stuff. Because if you can use the cycle as a period of meditation, almost like what you're doing with the yoga is good, it helps, but you can deepen your level. You can help cleanse the chakras even further. And you can use the cycle to understand what emotions you are repressing. Whatever's coming up in the period, whatever emotions, whether it be anger or guilt or shame or grief or whatever it is that's coming out at the cycle, that's your opportunity to really understand what emotions you have been repressing and what you haven't been allowing yourself to feel, because it's going to come out at the end of the month. Men also have a cycle. It doesn't run on the same 30-day or 28-day calendar as women, but men do have a cycle as well. Most people are very unaware of it, though. The man's cycle runs about 40 days. Men are just as emotional creatures as women are, and men also do have a sexual cycle that happens. So during your cycle, what I would recommend is breathing nice and deep throughout the entire 5 days or 4 days or 6 days or whatever, how long your cycle is. Always returning back to the breath, always coming back to the breath, always. The breath will take you out of the emotions. The breath brings your level of consciousness up. So instead of being tied down and identified with your emotions, you can actually get a more high-level perspective on what's happening. You can see down upon the forest instead of being amongst and in the forest of your emotions. As far as whether you should spend time with your man during your cycle, you really have to be your own best judge and your own best guru. Do you explode emotionally at people during your cycle? Well, if you do, then yes, maybe it would be a good idea to take some time away from your boyfriend. Because if you're prone to exploding at people and you know that it has nothing to do with them and that it's just about what you're going through, it's going to be hard. Sometimes it's hard for other people to understand that you're going through stuff internally, unless you really explain it to them. And if that's not something you're comfortable really explaining to him, or you're not at that level yet, then yes, I would recommend that you take some time apart. Always returning to the breath. The breath will take you out of the emotions. The breath will balance you. The breath will take you out of the ego. And spending, 5 minutes to 10 minutes a day or at a time, just breathing deep, maybe up to 5 times a day. So 5 times a day, breathing deeply for 5 to 10 minutes. That's a good guideline to, get you started on helping to soothe your emotions during your cycle. And also, like I said before, using the time as an opportunity to help understand what type of emotions you're feeling. Because whatever it is that you're feeling at that point is probably something that you've been denying or repressing or rejecting throughout the month. And it's finally coming out in your cycle. Now, there's one last thing that you said. You said that you don't want to show your boyfriend your negative side or your negative feelings. And this goes back to what I was saying about your cycle, and perhaps one of the reasons why it tends to be difficult for you to handle is because you do seem to be rejecting your negative feelings. You do seem to be rejecting this argument-starting person inside. And while it's not ideal to be argumentative with people and to start fights and to generally be unpleasant to be around, obviously it's not great, but you have to start somewhere with healing it. So there's 2 ways that people can go about trying to heal something like this. One is what most people do, which is to reject it. They try to push it away, they try to not think about it, they try to repress it and just hope that it goes away. And what that only does is it makes the problem recede into the unconscious mind. So now the problem is actually, it's still there, but it's just working from deeper levels inside of you. So now you act certain ways and you don't even know why you're acting that way. That's because you've repressed that thing and it's gone deep inside of your mind. So it's become very subtle. It's become very, very subtle. So it's hard to pick up. And again, you can pick these things up by looking at your cycle, looking at your emotions and what you're feeling. Then you'll start to understand what you've been repressing and what you've been rejecting. Women who accept their feelings totally throughout the month have lighter cycles than women who are constantly rejecting their emotions and are constantly struggling with themselves. So I'd like you to start attempting the second option, which is to start accepting the argument-starting person inside of you, to simply start accepting that person, accepting the energy of it, and to allow it to be, to stop rejecting. Because the more that you allow something to be, the more patient you are with it, the quicker that it can start healing, the quicker that it starts moving out of you. Emotions are energy in motion, which means that the energy flows into you and then flows out of you. Children experience emotions and then they're gone 5 minutes later. 1 minute, they're completely enraged and angry that their toy has been taken away. And 3 minutes later, they're playing on the swings or doing something else. They're completely over it. But as we become adults, we start repressing things and then energy starts getting stuck in us. We experience anger and then we tell ourselves, no, we shouldn't feel that way. I shouldn't feel that way. I shouldn't feel that way. And then the energy gets stuck. So how do you start healing this? Well, you start to accept that you feel that way. Start accepting how you feel. And it doesn't mean that you have to accept that what you feel is right, but just to accept that it's there, just to accept its existence, and just to be patient with it. And once you do, that emotion will start to flow out of you. That emotion will start to leave you and will leave behind just a feeling of well-being and bliss. So I hope this information has been useful and helpful to you and has given you a different perspective on things. And if you have any more questions or comments, feel free to email me at brandon@yintegrity.com. And until the next video, thank you for watching and namaste.